Stories of Great Christians. From its radio studios in Chicago, the Moody Bible Institute greets its friends everywhere with Chapter 22 in the transcribed story of Florence Nightingale, the Lady with the Lamb. While visiting hospitals in the Crimea, Florence Nightingale was suddenly stricken with a severe attack of Crimean fever. When she was sufficiently recovered to stand the trip, the Bracebridges brought her back to Scutari. And soon she was well enough to be able to sit up and watch the antics of a terrier sent by Sidney Herbert to amuse her.
Selina, come quickly.
Down, Terry. Shame on you for bothering the owl.
Terry. Oh, away, you rascal. Poor little owlet. Here, you go back in your cage now where you'll be safe. Look at the poor little bird ruffle his feathers.
I believe Terry was after Birdie because he's jealous.
Oh, what makes you think so?
Well, I was giving the bird all my attention. At first, Terry just ignored it, but when he noticed that I'd forgotten him, he jumped at the poor little owl.
He's a quick little snipper, all right. Come, Terry. Jump! Look at him. You think you'll be strong enough to have tea on the terrace?
Oh, how delightful. I'm sure I am. It'll give me a chance to see the world's most famous view looking over the Bosphorus.
It's about time you had a chance to look at it. You've never taken a moment for this view until now.
And now I don't have much choice.
Oh, I see Dr. Sutherland coming up the walk. I'll run along, get the tea things ready while he's talking to you.
Make it enough for 3.
I will.
Well, how's my lady this afternoon?
Chipper is the word, I believe, Doctor.
You're looking a little better. Still pale, but a little more luster in your eyes. See a few curls peeping out from underneath the cap, too, don't I?
Yes, it's starting to grow again. Imagine my humiliation at having to have my head shaven when I was too weak to know anything about it.
I'm not sure you shouldn't be grateful for that bout of fever.
Why? What do you mean?
Fever may have saved your life by forcing you to rest. I was expecting you to fall dead any day just from sheer exhaustion.
Oh, it wasn't that bad, was it?
Now that you're learning to rest, I hope you'll continue to take it easy.
Oh, I wish I could.
You can and you must.
But you know I won't. Seriously, Doctor, I'm still hearing tales of the goings-on at Balaclava. Mrs. Stewart, I understand, still isn't getting supplies as she should, for one thing.
I've heard that, too.
And to make matters worse, it seems that Dr. Hall persecutes her by sending her messages of criticism through her staff.
How unethical. It's frightful the way that man abuses his position.
Besides that, Mr. Davis is still ordering poor old Mrs. Weary around. I'm going to write to Dr. Hall, recommending that Mrs. Weary be relieved. Though I don't know how much attention Dr. Hall will pay to my suggestion.
I hate to see you go back into that nasty mess. They'll stoop to anything to make things hard for you, you know.
Oh, I suppose. But I can't give up without a struggle. Well, as soon as I'm able to get around all right, I plan to go back to Balaclava and fight it out. I was to find that the Bracebridges were even more weary of the struggle than I. After talking it over, they decided to return to England. Selina was unhappy, as she told me about it.
Believe me, Flo, it wasn't an easy decision to come to.
Still, I understand how you feel about all this. And you have given yourselves unstintingly for 9 months.
So much has happened that it seems like 3 years.
You deserve a rest.
Well, Charles and I have felt the strain, I have to admit. I'm feeling more like middle-aged. Really, sort of tired and old, I suppose. And we long for the English soil.
Oh, you've meant so much to me, Selina. No one can ever know how I've depended on your sympathy. But I want above all for you to be happy. So you go ahead home. I know you'll be happier there.
Well, we're not officially notifying anyone of our departure for a few weeks yet. I'm not stirring from this place till I see you securely on your feet again.
was able to be around very shortly and did my best to ease the Bracebridges' departure and make everything pleasant for them. As soon as they were gone, I went back to my old quarters at the Berwick Hospital. There, a surprise from my nurses awaited me. Well, what's all this? So many young ladies to see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Just what in time, though.
All right. You come along in first, then.
Yes, Miss Nightingale. Go ahead, ma'am.
Would you like to sit down?
Oh, no, I guess not, ma'am. Of course, it won't take long to tell you. I want to ask you if...
Why all the hesitation? Out with it.
What I'm trying to say is I'm planning to get married.
Well, I'm happy for you. And where is a fortunate young soldier? You know, I've always told all of my nurses that I want to meet their young men when they become engaged.
They're downstairs waiting at the landing, ma'am.
They? Well, you're not engaged to more than one young man, are you?
No, Miss Nightingale. But, well, I guess I may as well tell you. There are 5 others of the nurses out there, and all of them...
You mean that...
we all came in today for the self-same reason, to tell you that we're going to get married.
I'm so glad you dropped in. I need a shoulder to cry on, orderly.
You don't mean it. What's the...
Oh, not really. I suppose I should be happy for them. 6 of my best nurses announced their engagements to me this morning.
6? All at once?
Strangely enough, yes. My best girls, too. And it means that as soon as they can arrange to get back to England, they'll be gone.
Happy and sad news all at once.
That's it.
Well, you've had many a romance blooming this year amongst the sights, smells and sounds of hospital life, haven't you?
And some of them are really funny. I'll never forget the day that an emissary arrived from one of the Turkish chiefs here.
What did he want?
He wanted to buy one of my plumper nurses for the master's harem. After a few months, I was reminded that my family in England had not forgotten me. Aunt May arrived to take the Bracebridges' place and to help me during the remainder of my stay in the East. I was overjoyed to take her in my arms. But to my astonishment, Aunt May burst into tears when she saw me.
Oh, my poor Flo. So thin and so pale, so tired.
There. I'm a very great deal much better than I was. And I'll be better yet now that you're here.
But, my dear, you don't look like yourself at all. Now, here, sit down on this cot beside me and tell me all about things.
Oh, Aunt May, I can't tell you what a relief it is to have someone to confide in. It's been so hard keeping things all bottled up inside.
You're overworking.
Well, if the work were all, I don't mind work. It's the scheming and the backbiting that
That
goes on.
nasty Dr. Hall's making it unpleasant for you, yet. Bracebridges told me how he was opposing your work.
Oh, not only my work. Dr. Lawson, his right-hand man, is here in the Berwick Hospital now, and he's actually undoing the work of the Sanitary Commission.
In what way, dear?
Oh, in 100 ways. But one case will show you how it happens. Not long ago, a shipment of new hospital equipment arrived, ordered by the Sanitary Commission. Dr. McGregor is in charge of such details, and he went ahead to put the equipment in.
Well, that's what he should have done,
But
isn't
I
it?
haven't finished the story, Aunt May. After a few days, Dr. Cummings came along and ordered it all taken out.
But why?
He's afraid. He's afraid of Dr. Lawson, and Dr. Lawson is afraid of Dr. Hall.
Well, doesn't Dr. Hall want new equipment in the hospital?
He stated when the war began that the hospitals were all fully equipped and completely supplied. Since then, he's had nothing to do with improvements. They show him up as having been mistaken, however.
What a state of affairs.
So you see, I'm pressing for changes against a whole mountain of opposition.
Now I understand why you look so tired, Florence.
It's been rough.
Well, I'm here to help. You must let me do all I can to relieve this pressure.
I went back to the Crimea determined to do something about the special diet kitchen so desperately needed in the hospitals there. I was also determined to put an end to the waste and the favoritism that Mr. Hall was guilty of, and which was giving a bad name to the nursing establishment in general. I called first on Dr. Hall, who, after all, was at the bottom of most of the difficulties. After making me wait an extremely long time, he finally appeared.
Oh, Miss Nightingale.
Well, we meet again, don't we, after several months? I trust you're well.
Well enough.
I have orders from the War Office to look into the affairs of the nursing establishment here in the Crimea. Several things have been brought to my attention.
You say you have orders from the War Department. We have no record here of your having any authority in the Crimea at all. The only word that came to us says your field is Turkey. And this is not Turkey.
I don't mean to insist, but I do have letters from the War Department specifically requesting me to see certain matters here.
Well, someone has to be mistaken.
Not necessarily. It may be some small detail of wording or a slight error that could be cleared up quite easily.
When Sir William Dodrington took Regland's place as commander, he got no word from the War Department regarding your position either.
An oversight, perhaps?
Perhaps.
Would you care to see my orders?
That won't be necessary.
Well, shall I ask the office to send you a statement of my position?
I wouldn't bother.
Well, whatever our differences of opinion may be on that score, I'm sure you'll agree that there's a grave need here for extra diet kitchens. I believe they were ordered by the hospital, weren't they?
I guess I did hear some talk about kitchens. But I've had no time to look into those unimportant folderols. There's a great deal of regular work to be done, you know.
You're perfectly right about that. And knowing how busy you are, I've come to offer to relieve you of the kitchen business. It would be easy for me to see that they're installed, since I've had experience with the same type of work at Scutari.
Well, all right, do it if you insist. But don't expect me to follow everything that's done at Scutari.
Well, I really hadn't intended that.
I don't believe in pampering the troops.
Please don't think I'm trying to set up Scutari as an ideal. There are many things there to be looked into even yet.
I'm surprised to hear you say that.
Why?
Why, I thought Scutari was pretty well set up even before you came. Of course, I know you've brought in the ladies and have looked after a few housekeeping matters that men generally don't concern themselves with. But on the whole, the hospitals were operating as well as could be expected.
My ladies and I have been happy to see that the housekeeping was improved. It's good of you to admit that there is some use for our service.
Don't construe what I say to mean that I go along with those newfangled notions.
I guess I don't know exactly which newfangled notions you're referring to, Dr. Hall.
Oh, that business of using gas or ether for operations, for instance.
Many of the doctors feel that it's valuable in saving the men from the effects of shock.
Stuff and nonsense.
It considerably eases the pain of things like amputation.
Pain's good for a man. The knife is a sharp stimulant. I'd rather any day see a man bawl lustily than to take ether and sink down silently into the grave.
At any rate, the subject is much talked about these days, isn't it? Now, if you'll pardon me for bringing up quite a different matter.
What now?
I'm sure Mrs. Weary means well. But she's over 70 and rather easily put upon.
Mrs. Weary is perfectly satisfactory and will be retained in her present position as long as I see fit. Now, if you've finished your criticisms and suggestions for this afternoon, I guess we can terminate the interview. There are quite a number of things I should be looking after.
And so we conclude Chapter 22 in the transcribed story of Florence Nightingale, The Lady with the Lamp. This is another in the series of Stories of Great Christians, which come to you from the radio studios of the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago.